Are people really getting kicked for using paid DLC? But it's never that simple, is it? Recently heard some reports that somebody was getting kicked from a bunch of multiplayer sessions in Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, and the reason was that he was using paid DLC, apparently. There's been a couple of YouTube videos covering this and sounded a little suspicious to me. So I set out on a mission to see if this is really happening. Then could I get kicked from a quest or lobby for using paid DLC? So here's my story. First thing I did was I wore the fall outfit, which retails for way too much money. I got mine for free from Discord, but yeah, it has a monetary value in the Steam store. Second thing I did was I used the proceeds from this particular video that I'm showing you on the screen. Awesome video, by the way. Go check that one out. To purchase a Lost Code DLC weapon skin. I don't think you can get these for free at all. And yes, I actually paid money for this one. Way too much money because I think the design is really terrible. So with my paid DLC in hand and equipped, I began the long, arduous process of joining random quests in the hopes that somebody would notice me. And not just notice me, but also hate me on principle. Hate me enough to kick me from their quest. On my first try, there was actually one other guy using a Lost Code weapon. Awesome. Surely one or both of us would get kicked. Alas, we finished the quest free of incident. Not even a mean comment directed at either of us. Okay, fine. That was just bad luck. Let's try another. Yeah, nobody on this one's using Lost Code either. Maybe there's a chance that I'll get kicked. Okay, what about this one? No? After all these tries, I started to get desperate. Maybe they weren't even paying attention. I mean, how often do you even look at other players' equipment, let alone try to figure out what layered armor and weapon they're using? So I had to step up my game a bit. Yep, I customized every automatic shoutout to tell on myself. Surely this will get me noticed. Oh boy, this is harder than I thought it would be. I mean, they didn't even kick me for spamming the same thing over and over again. So I decided to use a custom shoutout. At this point, I'm practically begging them to kick me. No, still, it's not happening. So I know what you're thinking right now. I can hear it in your whiny little voice. But you've actually proved nothing. Your sample size is too small. You just got lucky, that's all. And yeah, you're right. My sample size is too small. Guess who else has a small... I can't even say this without laughing. Guess who else has a small sample size? You got it. The guy who started all this nonsense. One guy, let's assume he was even telling the truth to begin with, got kicked from a quest. Okay, what he actually claims is he joined 12 different lobbies and got kicked from all 12 lobbies, and that people were making fun of him on top of that. The way he writes it, it sounds like he had a 100% kick rate for using paid DLC. Like, he just can't even join a lobby without someone harassing him and then kicking him. Guess I'll have to join some lobbies and see what happens. Okay, I can only find 14 Master Rank lobbies in total, and none of them are kicking me. Nobody is even caring at this point. Let's check Switch. I didn't get a capture of this, but I'm going to flip through this real quick and see what's here. Okay, there's 47 lobbies on Switch right now. That's like 3 times as many as on PC. That's pretty crazy. I guess all the action is on Switch. Over half of these lobbies are just 1 out of 4 people in them. So it's just one guy sitting alone in a lobby by himself. Most of these lobbies also have no criteria for joining and no target monsters or quest types. They're just anyone welcome. Let's do whatever the hell you want. Please join me. That's what they're saying. Something still doesn't sound right. So I figured I'd go straight to the source and see what's really going on. I wanted to see if anybody had questioned this guy's story. And wouldn't you know it, lo and behold, someone did. In fact, multiple people questioned his story. And then the guy starts changing the details. A lot. Look at how the details are changing here. So now he's claiming that this happened over the course of several days, and he was just keeping track of the number of times he got kicked. All right. He said he was joining lobbies that we're intentionally doing anomaly investigations. And he says people really aren't saying anything to him. He's just getting kicked from the lobby. So another person questions him. And what does he say now? Okay, so he says he's only ever been kicked 3 times before. And he's fairly certain it was because he had the layered weapon. And he claims 2 people typed a message to him about having a layered weapon. He doesn't say that they said, I'm going to kick you because DLC. So let me just point something out before I show you his next response. Look at his original message. He says, joining random quests went well, but then he started to join lobbies to grind specific hard investigations. Afflicted Rajang, Gold Raytheon, a specific quest that he had. His next response when someone questioned him was, someone said, well, why don't you just post your own quest instead of joining other people's quests? Make your own lobby, essentially, I think is what the guy meant. The response this guy says, he says, I wanted to help people since I'm done with my own grind and I know people like horn buffs. All right, this is the point where I feel like this guy is trolling us because he just contradicted himself. The original message said he wanted to grind. Now he's saying, I'm done grinding. I don't want to grind. I just want to help people out. And on top of that, I want to help them out with a hunting horn. That's where the joke is, I think. I think that's the joke because nobody likes the guy who just stands around buffing you with a hunting horn. So this response makes me think, all right, he's just joking. That's fine. Let's see what else. Did anyone else question this guy? So are you sure they're kicking you for using lost code and not for not using a more effective weapon, for example? So the idea is that you join a lobby where they want you to use high DPS builds, high DPS weapons. They don't need you to heal them. They don't need you to buff them. They just want you to come in and kill the monster really fast with them. And that's pretty common, especially when you specify that in the description of the lobby. Okay. And he was going to these exact lobbies. And so this guy, he's the genius here. He figured it out. The response was, I wasn't joining hardcore lobbies at all, just joining any lobby that had actual info put in it. So anything not default. So this is the guy who was claiming to get kicked so much. Now he's saying he wasn't joining hardcore lobby. Well, how do you know? He's contradicting himself in this sentence. The only way that you can specify that you're in a hardcore lobby is to put in very specific information about what you're going to be hunting and how you're going to be hunting it from what's available on the menus. And so he's saying he wasn't doing that, but in the very same sense, he says that's what he was doing. Assuming he's not trolling us, he doesn't even understand what deep waters he was walking into. And so this guy figured it out. He realizes that, yeah, the guy got kicked because they didn't want a hunting horn user. They assumed that he's using hunting horn. He's not going to have very high DPS. All he's going to do is stand around buffing them. And maybe they want someone who has high damage output. So yeah, finally, somebody explains to him what is actually going on here. And the guy still doesn't get it. Let me recap it for you in case you still don't get it. Guy joins lobbies that are specifically for grinding difficult monsters quickly. He's using his hunting horn with the intention of helping people. Now, the person who set up the lobby doesn't want that kind of help, so he kicks the horn user. It's as simple as that. And that's all assuming it wasn't just made up from the start. So where does that leave us? This entire issue is a non-issue because it didn't actually happen. Maybe he did get kicked a few times, but not for the reason he's claiming. The sad thing is people think it's happening because of paid DLC, and they're jumping on the bandwagon and agreeing with this kind of toxic behavior that isn't actually happening. They're saying it's justified to kick people for using paid DLC. So they can send a message to Capcom that paid DLC is bad somehow, but they're outraged over literally nothing. And that is what the internet is these days, folks. A lot of rage over made up shit. And then people taking advantage of that. Wow, check this out. 60,000 views over a non-issue? I think I'm doing it wrong. I hope you've learned 2 lessons today. Number 1, if there's a question in the thumbnail of a YouTube video, the answer is always no. Just like when you're watching Ancient Aliens, any question they ask you, the answer is always no. And the second lesson I hope you've learned today, some people are just angry dicks, and they were already angry dicks before paid DLC for Monster Hunter even existed. Thanks, Capcom. Now, where do I personally stand on paid DLC? If enough of you guys really care to know, I'll tell you in another video. In the meantime, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and come on over to the Discord. We've got all sorts of people there, including some that make up funny stories.